What's up, everybody?
Hey, is that it?
Hey, yeah,
That's it.
that's it. That's it.
That's
We're
it. Just
here.
just what's up, everybody? That's it. There was nothing
Uh,
else.
you know me. I'm always distracted at the beginning. I'm checking levels. I'm making sure we're not blowing people's ears out. Because one thing,
that was it. That
one thing.
confused me. I was like, what the hell? Nothing more. What's up, everybody? We are the Punch Drunk Critics. Welcome to Cinema Royale. I
Yeah,
am
man.
Travis. I am Travis Thompson. That guy who just interrupted me is John Nolan. Uh, and welcome to the show. We are here every single week. You can find us on Spreaker. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter at PDC Movies,
Right.
is the site's Twitter account. And this week, there were
Spotify too. I was happy to find that out. We're on
we are on
Spotify as well.
Spotify. I probably added it at some point a long time ago and didn't even
Mm,
think about it.
makes me feel
Um,
special.
yeah, I've added it to a lot of places, so who knows? Who knows? Or it might be something that's automatic from Spreaker. Who
Could
knows?
be.
Could be. They have a lot of options. Anyway, um, all right. Whoever keeps sending me invites over there on Overwatch, I'm not accepting. Um, anyway, so this week there weren't a ton of movies to talk about. At least none that I really wanted to talk about. Um, Miranda July, who was a big indie favorite, released Kajillionaire this week, which I didn't want to see because I don't like Miranda July movies. Um,
Hmm.
so I avoided it at Sundance, and I've still avoided it. So I haven't seen it yet. It got a pretty good review on our site though from Cortland, who gave it a 4. So she really liked it. But the big movie this week, the one that a lot of people have been talking about, is Enola Holmes.
Right.
This is the Netflix film with Millie Bobby Brown, Henry Cavill, Sam Claflin, and Helena Bonham Carter as the Holmes family. And Millie Bobby Brown plays Enola Holmes, who was the previously unknown younger sister, who's just as brilliant as her older brothers. And let's think
Hmm.
about that version of the Holmes family, just in terms of like gorgeous star power.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
You got Henry
Henry
Cavill's.
Cavill as Sherlock Holmes,
Hmm.
really? Sam Claflin as Mycroft, and Helena Bonham Carter as the mother, Eudoria. I mean,
When
it's like, man, what genes are running through that family?
when Sam Claflin is the least attractive member of your family, you got something good going on in the dream, in the genes, to be honest.
So
Yeah.
a lot of people have been talking about this film, and for good reason, man. I mean, it's already like I think it was already the number 2 most watched Netflix movie. I
Hmm.
can't think of the time period, but people. I know some people have watched it 3 or 4 times already. I've watched it a couple.
Yeah.
Um, it's a lot of fun, man. It kind of reminded me of the young Sherlock Holmes movie that I love so much from the 80s.
Yeah.
Only with a much broader feminine spirit to it.
Hmm.
She's just such a great, inspiring character, man. I mean, she's fearless, she's feisty, she's
Hmm.
smart, and she's resourceful. She's a lot like her older
She's a
brother
Holmes.
Sherlock,
Yeah.
but more in touch with people than he is. That's one of his famous ticks, and they kind of touch on that in the movie as well, which is that he's not really great with people,
Hmm.
and she is pretty much the opposite, despite being raised pretty much by her, just by her mom. In Solo, she thinks at the beginning that her name Enola is meant to be alone backwards, like that was intentional.
Right.
Um, so there's a lot going on here, and basically it's about her mother who disappears, vanishes on her 16th birthday, on Enola's 16th birthday, and she goes off and sets off on an adventure to find her, and gets swept up in a whole political thing. This movie's surprisingly political.
Hmm.
I really didn't expect it to. It deals with sort of the suffragette movement and all sorts of things. Revolution is in the air. So it is as perfectly timed a movie as I could think of for something that is completely fictional.
Hmm.
I absolutely love it. I think it's the best thing Netflix has done in a while, and I've liked a lot of stuff from Netflix this year, but I think it's the best thing they've done this year. I think it's great.
Yeah. This was the most theatrical movie I remember
It
coming out from
really was.
Netflix.
I would have loved to have seen this as a franchise on the big screen, but on the small screen where
And
people can watch it at home. Like I said, people have watched it 3 or 4 times already,
mhm.
so it's just as it's just as good.
Yeah, I mean, with all, you know. every Netflix movie has been made with quality and with care and with a professional touch. Don't get me wrong, but they I haven't really felt any of them that I was like, oh yeah, I see. This was supposed to be in the theaters and it showed up on Netflix. This is the first one that really
You didn't
felt.
feel that with Extraction
I didn't. I mean, I
or
felt that it was an off.
Bird Box. These are movies that
Nope.
were originally theatrical movies.
I know, but they didn't. They felt like movies that you would watch at home. And maybe that's my bias on it because I'm so used to watching action movies that like all I watch at home are action movies for my entire life. So an action movie like Extraction, maybe that's why it gets in there. But this really felt like I could tell it maybe should have been in the theaters. Not only is this family immensely good looking, but they are immensely intelligent. You've
You're
got
old enough. I think you're old enough to like Millie Bobby Brown now. I think she's old enough now.
Honestly, she's the kind of girl, and my wife and I were talking about this last night. We want. I would be happy if my daughter grew up to look like her.
Yeah.
She's a gorgeous girl, no doubt, but she's gorgeous in a way that seems intelligent, and it really lends to the character.
I don't
And
know. I don't know.
again,
I need to think about how that sounded for a second.
well, you know what? If you're digging for
I know what
something,
you were
when
saying.
I talk, you're gonna find it. Like
I
Jenna
know what you were
Jameson.
saying. I
Jenna
know. I know
Jameson
what you were saying. I know what
Yes,
you were saying.
Jenna Jameson in her prime, Pamela Anderson in her prime, very pretty, probably not intelligent. But this is the other side of that. So, I kind of I found that I'm a big Sherlock Holmes fan. Every iteration of Holmes, whether it's the books, the
Yeah,
movie,
me
the
too.
TV show,
Except for
even
Elementary. I didn't
I,
like Elementary.
I was just about to say even Elementary. I watched every episode of it. I
Yeah,
loved it.
yes, yeah.
Um, and I loved this as well, every bit of it. But it did depart from the norm quite a bit. There's some parts of Sherlock's story that always change no matter where you are. His parents are one. Sometimes they're dead, sometimes they're alive. Sometimes they're geniuses, sometimes they're dumb. There's all kinds of different stuff going on. But this really got me because I didn't see Henry Cavill Sherlock Holmes as particularly bad with people. We don't get a lot of time with him. You could see Millie Bobby Brown did a great job in the first part of the movie when she's venturing out into the world and she meets the Marquis or Marquess as they call him, and the center of the side mystery or what really becomes the primary mystery. You can tell she's not versed in social interaction, but Henry Cavill was very quiet, very reserved, but he didn't seem, that almost Asperger's level Sherlock that, say a Benedict Cumberbatch goes to. My
No, he's
call.
not. No, he's not that type of bad with people. He's bad with
Mhm.
people in the fact that he only looks at them as suspects. Like
Right.
he only deals with people who are involved in cases. Like he doesn't just deal with people as they are, which is why he has no practically no relationship with some parts of his family.
Right.
You don't really see him. He has like an admirer, the investigator,
Hmm.
but that's basically the same thing as people who are involved in cases. But he
Right.
doesn't have any kind of relationship with people just as who they are, just on their level. He doesn't
Right.
have that.
But
He doesn't have that, and he doesn't seem to understand them outside of that either.
yeah.
So yeah, it's a little bit different. There are different ways to portray his. I don't know if it's quite antisocial, but it's almost on that level.
Yeah. I mean, Sherlock Holmes has always been an anti-social character. It's on different angles in different ways. I
Yeah,
did think.
sometimes he's clearly sort of stuck up and kind
Mhm.
of high and mighty, and I think they kind of allude to that in this movie too. There's the
Mhm.
great character. I can't remember her name. The black lady who's a fighter.
Oh.
Rogue. And
Yeah. I didn't know
I
who
just
she
put up a
was.
meme from her too of the line that she says in the movie,
Hmm.
and I don't know if I can find it, but it's a great line, and it really speaks to. Here it is. It really speaks to a lot of the portrayals of Sherlock Holmes, and her name is Edith, and she says, "You don't know what it is to be without power. Politics doesn't interest you because you have no interest in changing a world that suits you so well."
Yeah. I like that line. That
And
was good.
it is the line that really stands out to me in the movie, and I think
Hmm.
it speaks a lot to Sherlock Holmes and a lot of the ways he's portrayed. He's great at solving cases and things like that, but
Hmm.
does he really do anything proactively to kind of change the world around him? Not really.
He's not interested in it.
It's not really his thing. He's not necessarily a hero in that sense.
He's not. I
You
mean,
know,
for his own cause, he's not at all. I mean, being a hero is a byproduct of what he's good at. If he was really with his personality, if he was really good at making bombs, he'd be the world's biggest villain. he knows what he's good at. He
Yeah.
likes what he's good at,
Which is
and
why him and Moriarty are flip sides of the same coin because
right,
Moriarty has the same level of intellect, but he's used it for a different purpose.
right, and I mean he's so dependent on it that that's where everybody knows of the dependency issues that Sherlock has had throughout his iterations. That's where his heroin and opium and laudanum use comes from. Is when he doesn't have a case, he gets so bored he can't deal with the world. He needs to escape. But I think the coolest thing about this, not the coolest thing really, but a thing that I loved and I would hate to have seen it without. Henry Cavill and Sam Claflin's Sherlock and Mycroft are side characters at best. They're only in 10% of the movie maybe, but in that ten
It is
percent,
her story. It is
yeah,
definitely her story.
and they should be. But in that
Hmm.
10%, Henry Cavill and Millie Bobby Brown's Sherlock and Enola, their relationship, how it turns, how it changes Sherlock in these minute ways, and then in the final scenes of the movie, when you can tell they're going to have a future in front of them together, it's just extremely touching, and I really wasn't expecting it. It was touching in a lot of places, but that one I thought was the most effective.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I love their scenes together.
Mm.
Well, let me make sure it's not Verizon. It's not. Okay. Yeah, no, I love their scenes together, and like you said, she really does change him because what we were just like
Mm.
basically what we were just talking about. We see something bigger for her. We see her possibly using her skills to be the hero that he's not. Like
Right.
she's willing to stick her neck out and help out people who aren't necessarily part of the case. She's willing to step out and do things for people because she genuinely just cares for them. She
Mm.
doesn't have to. She could just go on and just keep looking for her mom, and that would be it. That would be the movie. But she
Right.
doesn't do that. She goes off and does what she does because she has a heart to do that sort of thing, which is not necessarily Sherlock's thing.
No, which
But by
we
the end of the movie, you can see him maybe seeing things and seeing the world in a different light, which
yeah.
is I think a really cool way to evolve his character for this particular franchise, which I
Mm.
hope becomes a franchise. I'm hoping because there are a series of these novels.
If it doesn't,
I
that'll be
know
a huge.
that was always the plan was to do make it a franchise, and I
The
think it's
only
all guaranteed now considering how beloved it is already
right.
and how popular it is that they are going to. I will be shocked if we don't have an announcement of the next movie within the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean the only thing I want to know, and the only threat to that really is Netflix's business model. I know with shows, the reason that we only get 3 seasons, and no matter how popular it is, unless it's Stranger Things, they cut because they've got an algorithm that says they don't get new subscribers after 3 seasons of a show.
Yeah,
I don't know if that extends to sequels on movies. And I knew it. We're
they've
almost
never done any.
guaranteed at
They've
least
never done
one.
any.
They've never done
Well,
any sequels.
they've never done any sequels. So I mean, in
Hmm.
terms of movies,
Thought they did at least.
but this year has been the year that seems like they've been changing that.
Yeah.
Extraction is almost certainly going to have a sequel.
Hmm.
We're probably going to see an Old Guard sequel. We're probably going to see a sequel to this. And this, like I said, I remember when this movie was first announced, the plan was always to turn it into a franchise. That was the plan.
Hmm.
So I'm almost certain that we were going, and it was always a Netflix thing, although Netflix was hoping to put it in theaters too, the way they do with some movies.
Right.
They didn't really end up doing that this time for obvious reasons, but I think the plan is definitely going to be to make this into a franchise, which
Hmm.
makes sense. Millie Bobby Brown is and Henry Cavill are in arguably their two most popular shows, The Witcher and Stranger Things.
Hmm.
So it's like, why wouldn't you build something around them?
And
Of
they're
course,
both still on the way up in their careers, so you would definitely want to lock them into something now.
they are still on the way up,
I,
especially Millie Bobby Brown. Henry
yeah.
Cavill has been sort of where he's been at for a while,
Hmm.
but yeah, you're right. So I mean, I'm really great. This movie turned out to be so good. This is going to go down, I think, as a classic. Um, I think
But
it's going to go down
I'm actually
just by
pleasantly surprised by
the
how
instant
much you like
reaction.
this.
Yeah, I'm surprised by how much I liked it too. I mean, it's my favorite thing that I saw this week.
Hmm.
I saw some good stuff this week, but this was the best thing I saw this week. One of the best things I've seen over the last few weeks.
It was very good, and it pulled off some things that aren't easy to pull off, or that could have gone very badly, like breaking the fourth wall, which Enola does throughout the movie. Millie Bobby Brown just got there's so much charisma. You can feel it coming off the screen in this movie, and that's the kind of thing. That's why Ryan Reynolds is good as Deadpool. That's why Millie Bobby Brown is good doing this particular thing. Is that breaking the fourth wall could have gone really bad and really cheesy, but it just worked so well because she's so genuine and so sweet.
And you know why it works for her, because you're
Mhm.
right, breaking the fourth wall doesn't always work. And um, the reason why it works for her is because they're not using it to uh, they're not using it to tell rather than show.
Mhm.
They're using it to sort of broaden her personality a little bit.
Yeah, it just
She's
puts an
having
exclamation
fun.
on something.
She's usually just reacting to stuff along with us,
Mhm.
which brings us further into the character, like really making us like her even more. She's not using it to explain stuff that they could just as easily show.
Right.
So that's why it's fun. It feels natural to the story, and not like something that's being set aside so that something can be explained to us,
Mhm.
which is how it's too often used in worse movies.
Yeah,
So
it's just an exclamation on the end of the scene or the statement. So, but yeah, that was we so it sounds like it's definitely a go from both of us on Enola Holmes, and it's free
yeah,
if you have Netflix. So why wouldn't you? Let's be honest.
yep,
Um,
best movie of the week.
it and I know you mentioned a few other movies, but are there any other movies you wanted to talk about this week? I mean, like
There
such
weren't a whole lot that
recently.
I really needed to talk about this week. I
Mm,
saw a movie called Swerve um, earlier this week.
mm,
Sort of a thriller, I guess. Hold on. Sorry, the window went down. It's a thriller. It's nobody that you know in terms of like cast.
right.
Azura Sky is the lead. She's probably the most well known, if she's not really that well
Mm,
known. And basically, it's about a mother who is she's married to a husband who is attentive but eh, kind of a douche. She got
right.
a couple of kids, teenage boys who don't respect her at all. She's feeling all this pressure from her family to be perfect. Um, she's a teacher, which is one of the most uh, disrespected professions in the world.
Yeah.
She's feeling it from all different angles, and and it just becomes overwhelming for her. And the movie is really about her kind of breaking down into
Mm,
into um, into full blown depression. Um, she's got all sorts of other issues too going on as well. But the thing about the movie that struck me about it, and it was one of the toughest movies I had to watch in a while, and I mean
mm,
that in the best possible way. It's not a bad movie by any stretch. It's just tough to watch because it feels real. Is that there's
mm,
nothing histrionic about it, like there's nothing theatrical about it. It's just little things that happen that just kind of pile up.
mm,
Like the thing
right.
that triggers her is like a mouse that she finds in the house, and that's like the trigger.
So
It's
it's
like
honest.
like
I mean,
yeah,
that's how
it's
real
like
life
one thing
is.
too many, and the husband is just sort of like kind of dismisses it, like it's not
Mm,
that big of a deal. But of course, it's a big deal to her. It's
right.
just like one little thing at a time that just keeps happening, and there's no big blow up scene. There's
Mm,
nothing like ridiculous that happens that takes you out of it. It's just a
right.
series of little things that just keep adding on and adding on and adding on, and it feels, so I think everybody kind of feels that way sometimes. It's like the world is picking at you,
Mm,
and
yeah.
that's kind of what the movie is until eventually it gets to a point where there's a breaking point and then something horrible happens.
And that
But
breaking point is usually something small.
right, it usually takes something small. In this case, it's not something that wasn't something that she was already kind of thinking about in the back of her mind. But when she
Right.
it's like the final straw. So it's just one of those movies that feels super real, super close to home, and and I think the performances in it are fantastic. It's also one of those kind of a one and done sort of deal.
Mm,
Like you see it and then you're probably not going to want to watch it again, which is why I didn't want to talk about it all that much.
yeah. It
It's not
sounds a
like
little
it
heavy
doesn't have
for.
a lot of like replay value, right? Like
Right.
it's one of those movies you watched it and and then you're done. It's like I watched was that movie Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always earlier this year, which is a great movie.
Mm,
But when I watch it again, probably not.
yeah.
I mean, I probably won't watch it again. It's just some movies are just they hit you and they're really hard and you'll never forget them, but you won't necessarily go watch them
Yeah.
either.
Not being rewatchable is not a knock on a movie. There's just some types of movies that are able to be watched, and some are just
And I
too
think the
too emotionally
filmmakers
taxing.
I think the filmmakers go in knowing that.
Mm-hmm.
At least I hope they do. I hope they go in knowing
You'd
that
have to.
their movie is not something that people would be like, man, I'm in the mood to watch The Assistant today. And
Right.
go watch Julia Garner get harassed at work for an hour and a half. No, not really. Not really. Nobody feels that way unless you're like a psychopath.
Right. Well, I
Right?
think if the movie's good, if the movie turned out good, that means the filmmakers knew what they were working with, which means they expected it. So,
These
um,
movies exist to make an impact, to make a message, to connect with somebody,
mhm.
and make them think about something a certain kind of way. And
Right.
then that's what they're for, and then that's it.
Mhm.
They'll exist in perpetuity doing that for people who stumble upon these movies, and that's what they're for. But they're not going to be they're not even the kind of movies that play in theaters. Like
They're
they
not
don't,
entertainment as much as they
no,
are education.
they wouldn't put it in a multiplex. They wouldn't put it in a
Mhm.
multiplex. They wouldn't do anything. Nobody would go see it. So
Right.
they exist for one reason only, and this one is perfectly great, and I just won't watch it again.
It sounds like it belonged with our list of movies last week in our grim slate. Then, um, I always like a chance to segue to something supernatural. Um,
Right.
Travis is a huge fan as well. We've been huge fans of Supernatural for 15 years now. Um,
None of this is true.
okay, Travis isn't. He likes giving me he likes giving me shit.
That's that shitty show with that Pilecki guy, right?
He likes giving me shit because I'm one of the 7 heterosexual male viewers of the show that exist in the world. But I think it's
Pretty
an
much.
awesome show, and everybody should watch it and give it a chance. It's on TBS 40 times a day. Anyway,
You don't need to
um,
watch it. Watch Buffy or something instead.
veteran supernatural actor Aldous Hodge, who has been a
He was
pretty
on that show. Why?
yeah. He was one of the in the he was a big part of the season finale, season
Well,
2.
let me guess.
Um,
Let me guess. He died.
Eventually he did, yes. Um, but
I'm not shocked.
he he has been just on the outskirts of superstardom or stardom, whatever you want to say, for what seems like 10, 15 years. He's one
I
of these
said years
guys.
ago that he was going to be the next Denzel Washington. I was wrong in that because the
Mhm.
next Denzel Washington turned out to be Denzel Washington's son.
Yeah,
But who I could not have seen coming. So
yeah.
I don't fault myself for being wrong on that one.
Mhm.
But it seems like Hodge is getting is in the last like 2 years he's been having a moment.
Yeah. I mean, the guy has been working since he was in Die Hard with a Vengeance. That's how long he's been working. He's been consistently working that entire time. So and everything from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, like you mentioned, he's in Charmed. He had a part in Grand
Who
Theft
was
Auto
he
San
in?
Andreas.
Who was he in Buffy? What?
I mean, these are all guest spots. So he's probably in there for a few minutes. He was a masked teen. So it's a no name role, but
God, come on.
he's
He's
been
got
that.
too many credits for us to be referencing Mask Team
I'm going
on
up
an
the list here. He was
episode.
on Castle. The guy's had a ridiculous television career. I mean, all over the place, guest starring on every show you can think of, and now he will be coming out to play Hawkman apparently in the DC universe. What do you think about Hawkman? I've never understood
I don't like
Hawkman.
Hawkman.
I
I
don't
don't.
like Hawkman either.
I don't like Hawkman. I don't like Hawkman, aka Carter Hall, or whichever. I guess that's the one they're using. They're going with the Carter Hall version of Hawkman.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like Hawkman because his origin is too messy. It makes no sense. It's all dealing with reincarnation and a whole bunch of other bull crap.
Yeah.
That they will, in my post about it, I wrote like they're going to have to streamline that or just not talk about it.
Yeah.
And which they probably won't talk about it in Black Adam, right?
Right.
So Aldous Hodge is going to be playing Hawkman and Black Adam. So he joins Dwayne Johnson, who today came out and endorsed Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for president, which it was the news I woke up to, which I thought was really funny. So considering how many people want Dwayne Johnson to run for president, so it was kind of interesting.
Give it 20
He's the,
years.
he's the he's the third most wanted person to be president behind um, Biden and Trump.
Honestly, I'd be okay with that. Although it would be a
And,
step closer
look,
to.
I love The Rock as much as anybody. I don't want him as president. I know
But
I prefer to have somebody who has government experience and not just government experience, but experience as a civil servant. Thank you very much.
well, civil servant maybe, but I mean, let's be honest. Some of these things need to change, and they're not going to change from the inside. But do you think? All right, let me ask you this question: Do you think which one is closer to idiocracy with Hector Macho Camacho? Is it Donald Trump or The Rock being president? Because The Rock, he's the big, huge muscle man, movie star like Macho Camacho, but Camacho seems about, the current guy we have is a little closer to the clown that he is. So
I look, nobody takes us closer to idiocracy, period, than Donald Trump. So
yeah,
I don't care who you put in there. You put a ham
yet
sandwich.
no one takes us there yet.
Well, I think we've actually been there for a minute. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, so Aldous Hodge is going to be playing Hawkman in Black Adam. So Dwayne Johnson is playing Black Adam, who's Shazam's arch rival. Those
Mm-hmm.
movies will eventually cross over if this one proves to be a hit. So he joins Noah Centineo, who's playing Adam Smasher in the movie too. So we've got two members of the Justice Society of America, the JSA, who are going to be in the movie.
We need a
Whoever.
Venn diagram of Justice Society versus Justice League versus Justice League Dark versus Injustice Society. There's too many fucking ones in DC. I get lost.
I'm hoping that this leads to an eventual JSA movie because I love it. JSA is my favorite DC super team.
I love
Uh,
Doctor Fate.
well, I'm a big fan of Mr. Terrific. Um,
Mm-hmm.
love Mr. Terrific. Um, so I'd love to see that team get together. I'm pretty sure Doctor Fate is the third member of the team that's going to be on there. I think that's all we're going to see in this one is those three.
He has been. I'm amazed he hasn't. There are a lot of people that want him in something. Every single
He looks cool.
DC comic book property has some reference to him. I mean, in Constantine, the short-lived show, his helmet showed up. He was in Smallville. He's in Stargirl. I mean, it's just
I mean, Doctor
whenever they
Fate is
can.
one of those characters who touches on every. I mean, a lot of DC characters cross over into one another, and they all sort of
Right.
all meet, but more so than Marvel's a lot of Marvel's characters do. But
Mm,
Doctor Fate is one of those that definitely does. He's sort of like
right.
a strange type. He's also I've always kind of felt him as being in that sort of same vein.
Mm.
But he has a cool visual.
Yeah, the
So
helmet is badass.
I can't wait to see him how he's gonna look. I mean, we've seen
Mm,
the concept art that came out during DC Fandom,
right.
which looked pretty cool. But I want to see him in action.
Mm,
So that movie's happening. Of course, we know that. Aldous Hodge, like I said before, I've pictured him as being one of the A-list black actors in Hollywood. Ever since Straight Outta Compton when he played MC Ren. But the last 2 years, he's just been just killing it.
mm,
Clemency, I think Brian Banks is one of the best performances of the year for a movie that isn't very good. He was fantastic. And of
yeah.
course, Hidden Figures as well. And of course, he was just in The Invisible Man earlier this year. So
Mm,
Aldous Hodge is just on a roll. This seems like something that he's been long overdue for. There's a lacking in big um, sort of, and I was gonna say African American roles, but Carter Hall's not black, so they're doing it different. So they're doing it different.
mm.
But it's cool. But I just think it's awesome. It's too bad Marvel couldn't lock him up before this in something, but he kind of would have made an awesome Black Panther too. If I want to be serious.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. You know what? You're right. As soon
not
as you
that I
said, I
want them
looked at.
to not that I want them to replace Chadwick Boseman with anybody, but if Chadwick
They have
Boseman
to.
had never gotten the role, Aldous
Mm.
Hodge would have been a good choice.
Because he's got that same like the thing about Chadwick Boseman. We were talking about this the other day. I think I said the same thing. Is it's not just that he's a handsome strong guy. He's got that look of like nobility about him. Like there's a he's probably better than you type look to that guy. Like he comes from a stronger cloth or whatever. And Aldous Hodge has that same type of look.
Yeah. So awesome news. I couldn't be happier about that casting. Honestly, if you're gonna make me interested in Hawkman, this is a one way to do it. Not
Great.
a lot of ways to do it. This is one way.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So other DC news. Oop, that's Black Panther news. Let me switch my frame here. Other Black Panther DC. Where am I talking about? Other DC news. We got some news on the Justice League reshoots and some other stuff. I know there's a lot of talk about whether or not Henry Cavill was a part of that. Doesn't sound like he is.
No, the news that came out, there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff about Zack Snyder Justice League this week,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of crossed over into a lot more Ray Fisher news, which I really don't want to keep talking about the Ray Fisher stuff, just
No.
because basically at this point it's a back and forth
Mm,
of who said what and who did what,
right.
and I don't know if we're ever going to find out the full story about any of it. So I'm more curious when I post about the Ray Fisher stuff, and this goes for anything that goes outside of the boundaries of the set. I only post about that stuff when it affects the movie directly.
Right.
But I've been sort of fascinated by the Ray Fisher stuff, so I've been posting a little bit more than I normally would. But the reason why I've been doing it is because ultimately, and I said this from the very beginning when I first posted about it, the only reason why I've been posting about it is because ultimately I think this will affect Ray Fisher's future in Warner Brothers and like his role as Cyborg. Like ultimately, I was like, this is the only reason why I'm still following it. Is because I'm waiting to see if this impacts his role as Cyborg in the future. And we're kind of getting to that point. So what we're at now is so Zack Snyder's Justice League is going back for 1 week of reshoots.
Mm-hmm.
Not exactly reshoots. They're going back to shoot new footage, which
Mm-hmm.
was always sort of inevitable because he never finished his version of Justice League from the beginning. That was the whole point.
Right.
He never got to finish it, so there was no way. This is why I never thought the Justice League we would never see the Snyder cut because he never finished it. And to
Mm-hmm.
do it, he would need to go and shoot new stuff. Well, Warner Brothers, who has already commented on how expensive this movie is going to be and how they're not happy about that, which is another reason why I don't understand why they're doing it. So they're going back and they're shooting a week of new scenes with most of the original cast. So you've got Gal Gadot, you got Ben Affleck coming back, you got Henry Cavill was originally reported to be coming back, but now we've learned that he's not. He says he's not. He's busy shooting season 2 of The Witcher right now, so he can't. But Ray Fisher is coming back too as Cyborg. We know that Cyborg is going to have a bigger role in Snyder's version of Justice League than he did in the Whedon cut.
Yeah.
Um, so what's interesting, the cost of the production so far is at $70 million, which
The
is
additional production.
the cost of Zack Snyder's Justice League. What he's doing right now is $70 million. That is a lot of money for a movie that people didn't like the first time, and they're just trying to finish, not necessarily start from scratch. There are whole superhero movies that don't cost $70 million.
And not
So
just all of that, but add to it that it's also not going to get an opening weekend box office
right,
injection.
you're
It's
basically
HBO
hoping
Max.
right, you're basically hoping that people pay subscribe to HBO Max for this thing. So $70 million for that is a ton of money, and more than double what we were originally told it was going to be. We were
Mm-hmm.
told it was going to be 30 million. It's at 70, and I'm pretty sure it's going to go up because at this point, what's to stop Zack Snyder from saying I need another 50 mil?
Yeah, and they can't back down at this
They
point. They
can't
spent too
back
much
down.
money.
They have no position to back down
Mm-hmm.
because they've already given in. They already gave in to the fans who did nothing but beg for this movie for his cut for 2 years. They gave in, which put them on the back pedal right from the start. So
Right.
and Zack Snyder has to know this. Like
Mm-hmm.
he has to know it.
He's a
So
smart guy.
yeah, he has to know. So if he says, man, I need another 25, $50 million to finish this Dark Seed scene, man, I need it. Can't
Mm-hmm.
do it. Can't finish it without it. What are
Mm-hmm.
they gonna say? No. I mean, they
Yeah.
might try. They might try to negotiate and probably negotiate it down.
Mm-hmm.
But what's to stop him from coming back for more? I mean, and
Nothing.
if I know anything about Zack Snyder, he's gonna be like, man, I need another 10 million to add this Green Lantern scene in. I mean,
Right.
I will not be shocked by any of that. If by the end time this is over, we hear that this thing balloons to $150 million or something stupid.
Yeah.
I will not be shocked at all. But
Well, the only thing I'll say on that whole series of stuff is two things. Number one, I'm a bit concerned about you can go back and check our original reviews of Justice League. I thought Ray Fisher was the best part of that movie. His cyborg was subtle, it was reserved, it was powerful, it was good, and you could feel that he was missing. And that guy is a talented actor. Um,
yeah,
but
well,
I just
that's
I
the
think
thing now. Go
he
ahead.
well, he pulled the trigger right on this whole calling out Josh Whedon stuff, but I feel like he's making some wrong turns in how he presents the argument, and it's going to end up turning him around to looking like the bad guy in the end, or at least like a whiny guy in the end. Like the way
Well, go
what
ahead. Go
what's
ahead.
his name John from Star Wars. Wow.
What?
Finn from Star Wars. What's his name? Why? John Boyega.
John
So
Boyega?
like the way John Boyega, when he had a controversial thing to say, he got up, he said it, he acknowledged it was controversial and could reap havoc on his career, and then he said everything he wanted to say in a good, succinct, pointed way, and then he let it speak for itself. But it seems like
Okay.
Ray Fisher's going
Th-
out and saying more and more.
There's there's a pretty big difference though. There's some big
Yeah,
there's
I
some
mean
pretty
it's not
there's
apples
some
to
big difference.
apples, but
No, it's not because Boyega's already done.
mhm.
He's done with Star Wars, so
Not his career though. That's I'm
you can
talking
say
about career wise.
but it's not going to hurt his career if he doesn't do more Star Wars.
Hmm.
So he's done with Star Wars. He can talk all the shit about it he wants to. It's not going to affect him. Ray Fisher, on the other hand, is still under contract and has movie and had a solo franchise that he was
Hmm.
hoping to do. Now the thing is, we in this case, John Boyega isn't necessarily making any accusations other than creative,
Yeah.
right? I mean that's basically it. He's making comments basically. Uh,
Hmm.
Ray Fisher is not. He's not necessarily making creative issue problems. He's saying that he was abused on the set and that a lot of the entire set was abusive. That's nothing to do with the story.
Right.
Now the thing is, Warner Brothers is trying to make it seem as if it was all creative,
Hmm.
and that's where the story the narrative, if you believe them, because none of us know what happened. If you believe their narrative, he's bitter because his role got cut and he's got sour grapes because it didn't turn out the way he wanted it to.
Right.
So they want it to be creative because that paints him in a bad light. But we don't know if that's true. That's just taking their word for it. I'm not necessarily taking his word for it either. Like I said, I think we may never know what's really going on, and it's probably somewhere in the middle. But the thing that what's happening now is that so Ray Fisher's been called back to do these reshoots,
Hmm.
or these new scenes for Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Hmm.
But the feud with Warner Brothers has reached such a point that it's affecting negotiations contract wise because
Right.
he's supposed to come back and also shoot scenes for the Flash, and they've hit a stalemate. And a big part of the reason why this is happening is because they're in the middle of this feud, this whole thing. And there's a chance that he doesn't come back for. I mean, his scenes for the Flash have apparently been slashed to 3 scenes. So it's supposed to be more than that.
Hmm.
So there's a chance he doesn't come back for that. There's a chance he doesn't end up doing much for just Zack Snyder's Justice League either. If this thing it gets even worse.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, we definitely aren't going to see any more of him as Cyborg.
Yeah.
So I mean, this whole thing is just one big giant mess, and I kind of just wanted to get settled and let him play Cyborg and move on, and everybody just keep doing your thing. The people that were involved are gone.
Hmm.
The people who
Well,
were involved are gone.
so that's kind of
Joss Whedon, John Berg, and Jeff Johns have practically nothing to do with the DCEU at this point. They're gone.
right.
They might still produce things every now and then and stuff like that, but they're gone. They're not studio execs there. Walter
Yeah.
Hamada is. So I kind of wish they could just figure out a way to get this whole thing settled and move on. And
Hmm.
because I want to see more of Ray Fisher as Cyborg, I really do. Um, so I'm hoping that this thing doesn't derail that chance.
What can you tell us about Peacemaker? A new member of the Suicide Squad that will be meeting when James Gunn's film comes out. He's being played by John Cena. He's
Yeah,
apparently like a bad egg version of Captain America,
sort of.
and
Yeah,
we've gotten news that there's going to be a spin-off for
that's
Peacemaker,
pretty
which
much
is
it.
good news.
That's a pretty good description of him. He is a guy um, who wants the same things Captain America wants: peace and freedom.
Hmm.
He'll kill anybody he has to achieve it. That's basically it. I liken him to U.S. Agent
Right.
from Marvel. I liken him to U.S. Agent. U.S. Agent has mostly the same values as Captain America, only he's an asshole and he's willing to do pretty much anything to get what he wants.
Hmm.
Um, kind of like that. Only Peacemaker's far more violent. So
Which is
yeah,
ironic.
it is more exactly, and that's the point.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's gonna be one of the characters I am most looking forward to seeing
Mhm.
in the Suicide Squad. And somebody was saying that they wish this could have been the way they introduced all the Suicide Squad characters was with like a little HBO Max series or something like that would and then have the movie. And
Huh?
I was like maybe if there wasn't HBO Max back when Suicide Squad first came out, then maybe they could have done something like that, but there wasn't.
Well, I
So
feel like they did a good job with that though. Like there was
I didn't think
almost
it was an
these
issue.
these anthology. It was like a little mini anthology in the beginning where you have you in the first Suicide Squad at least where you get a short individual backstory for each person. Deadshot and Harley had the biggest ones, but I I
I'm sure we'll see something like that here too.
I am so I obviously am excited for this new Suicide Squad. Um, James Gunn's always awesome. He does wonderfully with material like this that's a little out there, but I just want to see how John Cena pulls off this look. If you guys haven't seen what Peacemaker looks like, then you need to go to punchdrunkcritics.com, search for John Cena. You'll see the article that Travis posted. There's a animated logo there
There
of
are
the
set
helmet he
photos.
wears,
There
and
are
they're all,
set photos of him as
yeah.
Peacemaker out there.
So if you Google John Cena and Peacemaker, go to images. I should have put it in the slideshow we have up there, but I didn't. It's pretty ridiculous looking, but I have a feeling he'll pull it off.
Yeah. So we can pretty much guess that Peacemaker is going to be one of the few characters to survive the Suicide Squad.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really big cast of people in that movie too.
Mm-hmm.
Probably 90% of them are going to be dead, like in the first 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah, we what we
Right?
should do before that comes out. We should have a segment where we just do a Deadpool for Suicide Squad and guess the order in
Pete
which
Davidson, number one.
you think he's first
Uh,
to go.
I think he's either first to go or like top three to go to be killed.
Does Idris Elba survive?
Yes.
Michael Rooker.
No.
I think Nathan Fillion's TDK is going to go either first or last. He's definitely going
Nathan
to go there.
Fillion could very well go first because I'm almost certain he's just showing up as a favor to his buddy,
Mm-hmm.
and he'll probably have a really funny, stupid death, probably right from the start, and they're probably
Yeah.
all going to die in stupid ways.
Yeah.
But
Jai Courtney, Captain Boomerang, I think he'll survive just because why would you bring him back? He's the only
he'll
person
survive.
that
He'll
was in Hollywood.
survive because he's too fun of a character to not survive.
Yeah. John
And
Cena's
and the one of
Peacemaker.
the things about Captain Boomerang is that he's a survivor. Like in
Mm-hmm.
comics stuff like that, like he's a guy with a boomerang. I mean, he's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But he's a survivor. That's what he is. So
Right.
he'll get through. He'll get through this.
Yep. And you have Javelin, Mongol. Oh, God, the list is just ridiculous. Michaela Hoover playing Camilla. Peter Capaldi as the Thinker. Sean Gunn as Weasel. I'm 50-50 on that. On one hand, you think,
He'll
that'd be
survive.
easy to kill off, but he'll survive because he needs him he's always going to be in his brother's stuff.
He'll survive. He'll
Yeah.
survive. But then again, you know what? Sean Gunn, even if he did die, he would still be in another movie with his bro. So I mean,
Yeah, he's just
he
CG
would
anyway.
just he would just come back as a different character. But I
Yeah.
think he survives anyway.
So we'll do some more fun stuff with that. Alice Braga, who I love.
Who doesn't love
The
it? Who doesn't love Elise Braga?
It wouldn't be a Cinema Royale in 2020 if we didn't have at least one news story about a movie's release date changing. Uh, West Side Story, Travis's most anticipated movie of the rest of the year. Um, that was that, right?
Can't stand it. I
Yeah.
can't. I don't like it.
Uh,
I don't like this one. I don't. I
that's
don't.
I'm
I
actually
don't.
bearing the lead. Black Widow is moving to
Black Widow's the movie.
2021.
Black Widow's the movie. Black Widow's the movie that everybody's been sort of expecting. In fact, we talked about it last week,
Mm-hmm.
that it was probably going to move to 2021 or just December of 2020, and now it's officially moved to May 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not much else to it. I mean, it has finally done the thing that we thought it was going to do, which is move. So at least we know it's not going to be showing up on Disney Plus. They're going to be moving it around as far as they can until they can put it out in a
Yeah.
theater. There was something else on that list that got bumped like an entire year, and I can't think what it was. Maybe it
I
was
thought
West Side Story.
it was West Side Story was the other one that was with.
I think yeah, West Side Story was the one that may have been moved back an entire year. But we talked about Black Widow last week moving, and it could be because one of the reasons for its move and why Falcon the Winter Soldier is no longer on the 2020 schedule because they could possibly tie in some way, which would make sense.
Right.
I believe that we will see, depending on which one comes first. I don't know which one's going to come first, Falcon and the Winter Soldier or Black Widow. I don't know, because
That's the big
one
question
doesn't
that
have a
comes with
date.
all this. Because
But I
all
think
these.
whatever way they do it, like let's say Black Widow ends first. I think it'll end with Florence Pugh's version of Black Widow emerging in the MCU.
Mhm.
Like I think
Yeah.
I think she's sticking around for the long haul. Obviously, you don't bring in someone like Florence Pugh and then only use her for one movie.
Right.
Um, I think her character emerges at the end of the movie, and then maybe shows up in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I mean, we could really get super geek level on this and start talking about the timelines and the dependencies and how every Marvel movie is a domino in the row. So you
We haven't
can't
talked
really
about the
mix it to
WandaVision
order.
trailer either. The WandaVision trailer came out this
Right.
week
Well,
too.
that's what I'm getting at is Black Widow they seem to be okay to move. Captain America and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is obviously moved back. That was supposed to have already been out in August. WandaVision is being released next month, and so it kind of makes you wonder: is there something behind that they had to release it now before the other stuff? Because initially it should have been released last in this list, or is it just completely separate
It
from
should have
everything?
come second. It should have come second after Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
No, Black
Which
Widow originally Black Widow was April, Falcon and Winter Soldier was August, and WandaVision was September, October, right?
I'm just thinking of the shows. Sorry,
Oh
I
yeah,
was
yeah, no, no.
Black Widow too, but yeah, there's something with WandaVision that it probably matters less when that comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing that is most closely tied to is Doctor Strange and the
Right.
Multiverse of Madness, which doesn't come out for a while still.
Mm-hmm.
So they probably could have put that out at any point, and they just want to get it done now, which makes sense. Um, you need to have one of these things come out during this year. That Marvel has had nothing all year. There's been nothing.
Right.
I know it seems like there's been something. There hasn't been anything from Marvel this year. The last thing we got was Spider-Man: Far From Home, which was last summer.
This shit is taking so long.
It seems like it's been forever, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, so they had to have something, and it's going to be WandaVision. That's the one. Both shows were delayed because of COVID, but this is the one obviously that
Mm-hmm.
proceed along better. And
Yep.
that trailer did come out this week. I did a full breakdown of the trailer too over on Twitch. So if anybody goes to my Twitch channel, they can go look at that. Kind of go through some of it frame by frame. Um,
Talk about that comics accurate Vision costume that we see and Scarlet Witch costume.
I mean that Halloween costume,
Yeah, love it.
clearly a Halloween costume that he was rocking there in that joint.
Mm-hmm.
I love that trailer to death. I'm super hyped for that show. Um, there's a lot of things that pop up in there that I think say a lot.
Right.
Like you have Catherine Hahn's character who's playing the nosy neighbor who keeps popping up.
Who's a witch?
I think she is clearly playing Agatha Harkness, who is um, key to Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, growing her powers.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's probably where they're going with that. I mean, these two things between this and Multiverse of Madness, it's probably going to this whole phase is probably going to be a lot about Wanda probably losing
Just
control, breaking from reality, and her powers flaring out of control. That's probably where they're going because these are two things that are going to be about her powers expanding or
right.
her learning more.
And for those that didn't get the point in Endgame where she basically bitched Thanos one on one when she got pissed off, she is close to, if not the most powerful person in the Marvel universe, at least of the heroes that are usually out there.
Yeah,
At her max potential, she is
she was
godlike.
going toe to toe. She was going toe
Yeah,
to toe with Thanos. You
and
know,
Not even really. She was just decimating. He didn't even have a chance.
yeah,
He was getting his ass whooped.
yeah. And they've been very nebulous with her powers over in MCU too. And in Marvel, in the comics, I can tell you what her powers are exactly.
Mm-hmm.
In the MCU, it's very unclear what her powers are.
Right.
It seems to change depending on what they need. But that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you see Agatha Harkness there. You see the whole changing of the from a 1950s style sitcom to like 70s and 80s style sitcoms with the hot pink and leg warmers and stuff like that, and
Hmm.
all sorts of things going on here. But you also you see you see them bouncing two kids
Yep.
at one point. That's
Yep.
got to be Wiccan and Speed, who are two characters who in the Marvel universe become superheroes and form the Young Avengers. I've been
Hmm.
saying all along that every single Disney Plus show has a tie to the Young Avengers.
Did they
Every
ever
single
explain in the comics how
every
that was even
single one.
possible?
Yes,
How Vision uploaded his
sort
RAM into her database?
sort of. I mean, well, I
Okay.
mean, well, I mean, you know he's synthetic. He's got all the tools. But but the kids were basically a figment of her powers.
Hmm.
So that's what drove her crazy. And this is what people got really excited about in this trailer. There's the wine bottle that they show for an inordinately long amount of time in the trailer,
Hmm.
and it says House of something, and it starts with the word letter M. And
House
of
of M,
course,
yeah.
the House of M storyline, which the House of M storyline in the comics begins with her giving birth to her two kids and basically being told, hey, these kids aren't real. They're a fraction of your powers. And it
Right.
drives her insane. It drives her insane. And her powers go out of control, creates a whole separate universe. It's just weird. And I actually don't like this storyline very much, but it is the storyline where she loses control. Eventually, she decimates the entire mutant race at the end in that storyline as well. So
Hmm.
people think it's a backdoor way to introduce the X Men. I don't think that's what it's going to be at all. But but yeah, those have got to be Wiccan and Speed, who are eventually brought into reality, like for real, and become superheroes. So, like I said,
Which
every single Disney Plus show has a tie to the Young Avengers.
one
So
thing they, I guess they
one
abandoned it. It's not really that it wasn't mentioned, but if you're going by the comics, Wiccan and Speed are the grandchildren of Magneto because Scarlet Witch and no wait, that's not right. Yeah, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver were Magneto's kids, right?
yes,
Yeah, so that's the dynasty, as it were.
right, and House of M is all about legacy and all sorts of stuff.
Mm.
House of M, House of Magneto. Um, so Wiccan and Speed in WandaVision. Hawkeye has obviously Kate,
Mm-hmm.
who becomes Hawkeye. Uh, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Patriot. Loki series, Kid Loki, aka Kid Loki. Um, we know that Immortus is going to be playing a role in one of the shows. And I can't think which show it was. We reported on it, and I can't think which show it was that he's in. Immortus. Hold on. Oh, stupid internet.
What what happened?
Oh no, I was looking. I just mistyped something like an idiot.
Mm.
That's all. Uh, okay, it's Ant-Man 3. Sorry, Ant-Man 3 is going to introduce Immortus, played by Jonathan Majors, from Lovecraft Country.
Mm.
Immortus is a big time A plus Avengers villain, but he's also Kang the Conqueror, and who is also Iron Lad. Um, so that's Young Avengers. They all tie into the Young Avengers. Every
Mm.
single one of these shows. And of course, and Miss Marvel in the Miss Marvel series that's coming out, another tied to Young Avengers.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just the Young Avengers are forming, even though Marvel hasn't said it. Um, they haven't needed to say it. I think it's been pretty obvious.
Mm.
But a lot going on. There's a lot going on in the Marvel universe. It's been interesting because it's kind of like what Star Trek and Star Wars are doing right now, where their TV shows have taken prominence over the films.
Right.
You know, that's kind of the way it's gone.
Well, yeah.
They were going to spending all that money on the big screen, and they've taken it and they've put them into TV.
Well, and now things. I don't know if things are going to a next generation. I mean, when you look at the CW shows, you have Supergirl ending this season. You have Green Arrow just ended.
That
Flash has got to
surprised
be
me.
close to. Yeah, me too. Because it wasn't the. I thought it was still very popular, at least as popular as Flash, and Flash is still going. And but you've got Black Lightning, you've got Batwoman, who are both newer shows. Legends of Tomorrow seems like it's on its last legs as well. So it seems like
You got
they're
Superman. You got Superman and Lois starting.
right. I have no interest in that show, but
You want to watch Tyler Hoechlin as Superman, whatever his name is?
no, he doesn't look right. And the other thing is, I think Superman is best used as a side character. To be honest with you, I love Superman. Don't get me wrong, but his invulnerability and his insufferability and being good all the time make him better to be a side character. Somebody that can come in like what was done in Justice League, even though that's not the best example. So it seems like they're either. I mean, I know everybody's saying that they're preparing for the next generation of shows, but it seems almost like they're starting to throttle back there and throttle up on the movies a little bit more now that they've got some traction.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the moment where I guess they've sort of already had that moment
Mm.
where the TV shows tie into the movies. I mean, I
They
guess you've already had that moment in Crisis.
Yeah, in Crisis, Ezra Miller showed up. I
Right.
mean, it's very loose, touching. Flashpoint is going to be huge, no matter what format you're on. Flashpoint's, they're talking about bringing Michael Keaton back for the Flashpoint in the movie, and
Ben Affleck is back too.
Yep, Flashpoint gives you endless possibilities of what kind of crazy shit you can do. But
that pretty much establishes that their version of the multiverse is a thing.
Yeah.
Like all these things, probably the comics and all the and the animated things, they all are part of a multiverse that goes beyond the comic page. Like they're all part of it together.
Yeah, I mean they even have basically a map for it in Marvel. The comics universe is what 616, right? And then well, I'm not getting all that, but we are running down to about a minute and a half left in the show.
Oh.
So I will. Say,
I don't know how we just spent an hour. We only talked about one movie.
I know. We're just gonna go like this and around and this and around. What do we got coming up next week? I need to find a good coming up next week list that I gotta have in front of me.
What is next week? Next week is I don't know, man.
I can feel No Time to Die on the horizon. So everybody just wear your goddamn mask so we can go see that
2 months.
theater.
2 months, man. 2 months away. Next week we have Scare Me, which I watched. You should try to watch that if you can.
Yeah, and I got Chick Fight, but
oh.
Yeah.
I watched 2067, which is a sci-fi movie with Cody Smith McPhee and Ryan.
How was that?
Sorry.
Right. Well, regardless, we'll have those movies, or we'll have movies for you next week, and then
we'll see. I actually may have something coming up next Sunday, so we may not have a show. We'll talk about it though. We'll talk about it off the air.
Or I can do a solo show and just be like this whole time. Today.
You should. Honestly, you should.
Dude, I can't. I can't.
You should invite one of the other. You don't need me to be here. You should invite Cortland or Khalil or somebody else from the site to do the show with you. They're happy to. Khalil is asking to do the show. You should probably have him on there.
I'll give him a call, but I'm talking specifically about solo shows. I have so much respect for people that do that. You think a motor mouth like me, I talk this much and this fast all the time, would have no problem filling an hour, but without that feedback, without any kind of discourse, it's so freaking hard to fill time. But maybe we'll get Khalil in next week then if Travis is going to be around. But in any event, we will be back next week. Check us out every single day, punchdrunkcritics.com. Twitter at punchycritic, at punchdrunkjohn, and at PDC Film or Movies. Why am I not remembering right now?
At PDC Movies.
PDC Movies. And don't forget to subscribe to Travis's Twitch, cinematic_enforcer. Let's switch over to our closing credit reel. It's all right there in front of you. So make sure to note that down. If you have any tips, questions, comments, or you just want to reach out and talk to us, email us at info@punchdrunkcritics.com. Until next week, guys, we're out of here.
Later.